You feel fine. Nothing is wrong. Your life, on paper, looks completely okay, maybe even good. And yet, there it is. That hollow feeling sitting right in the middle of your chest, like someone scooped something out of you, and you can't even name what it was. And the worst part, you can't explain it, because nothing happened. Nobody died. You didn't lose your job. You're not heartbroken. You just feel empty. And that emptiness makes you feel guilty, because what right do you have to feel this way? Here's what nobody ever says out loud. That emptiness you feel isn't a sign that something is wrong with you. It's actually your psyche sending you the most important message of your life. And by the end of this, you'll understand something about yourself that most people spend their whole life never figuring out. Picture this. It's a Sunday afternoon, the kind of Sunday that should feel restful. You've done your laundry, maybe watched something on Netflix, texted a few people back. There's nothing urgent, nothing on fire. And yet you find yourself just sitting there, staring at nothing, scrolling without seeing. And somewhere in your chest, this quiet, nameless ache starts to spread. You try to fix it. You eat something. You call a friend. You go for a walk. And for a few minutes, maybe it lifts, just enough to breathe. Then it comes back, like a tide that doesn't care what you do. This isn't laziness. It's not ingratitude. It's not depression, though it can feel like its quieter cousin. This is something specific, something psychological, something that has a name and a cause, and most importantly, an explanation. And here's what nobody tells you about that feeling. It didn't start today. It started decades ago. And your brain has been running this program in the background ever since. Now here's where it gets really interesting. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that chronic feelings of emptiness, even in the absence of any identifiable negative event, are strongly linked to a phenomenon called emotional disconnection. Not depression, not anxiety, a specific state where your inner emotional world becomes inaccessible to you. Translation: your feelings don't disappear, they go underground, and that underground pressure is what you feel as emptiness. And here's the neuroscience angle that genuinely fascinates me. Research from Harvard Medical School shows that when humans suppress or chronically ignore their emotional needs, the brain's default mode network, the part responsible for self-reflection and identity, becomes hyperactive. It keeps searching, it keeps scanning, looking for something it can't find. And that restless, unresolved searching, that is what emptiness physically feels like in your nervous system. Your brain isn't broken. It's looking for something real, something it learned very early on it wasn't allowed to have. When you were about 7 or 8 years old, you were an emotional genius. Sounds strange, right? But children that age are extraordinarily attuned to mood, to tension, to what the adults in their world need. And somewhere around that age, if your emotional environment was unpredictable or demanding or simply not equipped to handle your full emotional range, you learned something crucial. You learned to manage. Maybe the household had its own storms, and your feelings felt like one storm too many. Maybe you were the kid who was told, "You're fine," before you even finished the sentence. Maybe the culture you grew up in, that particular brand of pull yourself up by your bootstraps, don't make it a big deal, British stiff upper lip, or American just be positive energy, taught you that big feelings were inconvenient. So you got very, very good at turning them down, like a volume dial. And by the time you were 12, you weren't even aware you were doing it. You just moved through the world efficiently, capably. Fine. But here's the thing. Emotions don't vanish when you suppress them. They metabolize. They change form. Joy that never got expressed becomes a vague longing you can't explain. Grief that never got processed becomes a weight you carry for years without knowing what it is. Anger that felt too dangerous to show becomes a kind of numbness, because numbness is safer than the alternative. And then you become an adult, and life gives you everything you thought you wanted: the independence, the freedom, the ability to finally make your own choices. And you still feel empty. Because the mechanism that was protecting 7-year-old you is still running, still turning the volume down, still keeping you safe from feelings that stopped being dangerous a long time ago. But wait, there's a darker side to this. Here's what's fascinating. That same coping mechanism that creates the emptiness is also what makes you incredibly functional. Think about it. You show up, you perform, you handle things. While other people fall apart over inconveniences, you keep moving. You've been told your whole life that you're the stable one, the reliable one, the one people call in a crisis. And that identity, it feels earned, real. And this explains why you sometimes feel a strange resistance to actually getting better. Because if you stop being the person who has everything under control, who are you? The emptiness and the capability are running on the same fuel. This explains why you can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone. You're present, but you're not accessible, not even to yourself. You laugh at the right moments, say the right things, and then drive home and feel nothing. Not sadness, just nothing. This explains why you pursue things, promotions, relationships, experiences, and feel a brief hit of aliveness when you get them, followed immediately by that familiar hollow feeling settling back in. It's not that those things weren't real. It's that no external thing can fill an internal absence. And this explains everything about your relationships, the way you pull people close and then feel suffocated, the way intimacy feels both desperately wanted and vaguely terrifying, the way you sometimes look at the people who love you and feel absolutely nothing, and then feel horrified at yourself for feeling nothing. You're not cold. You're not broken. Your emotional system is doing exactly what it was trained to do. It's just that it was trained for a world you no longer live in. While everyone else seems to either wear their heart on their sleeve or not care at all, you exist in this in-between space that nobody really has a language for. And society doesn't help. We have a culture obsessed with emotional expression. Therapy speak everywhere. Vulnerability as performance. How are you really feeling as a social greeting that nobody actually wants answered honestly? And you either try to perform that openness, which feels hollow because it's not real, or you stay quiet, which gets you labeled as cold, closed off, hard to reach. What neither version accounts for is this. People who feel empty aren't emotionally absent, they're emotionally overloaded. The system didn't shut down because it feels too little. It shut down because it once felt too much, and it never got the message that it was safe to come back online. That quiet, contained way you move through the world isn't emotional immaturity. It is, in its origin, a form of profound emotional intelligence, a child's ingenious solution to an overwhelming problem. That changes how you should talk to yourself about it. What I'm about to tell you in the next 60 seconds reframes everything. The truth is, emptiness isn't the absence of feeling. It's the presence of feeling that has nowhere to go. It's not a void. It's a fullness that got sealed. And that changes everything because it means there's nothing missing in you. There's something waiting in you. The emptiness isn't evidence of damage. It's evidence of depth, of a system sensitive enough to protect itself this completely, of a self that survived by going quiet and is now ready, underneath all of it, to stop surviving and start being known. A 2019 study in Frontiers in Psychology found that emotional reconnection, even small intentional moments of naming what you feel without fixing it, produces measurable changes in neural pathways within 8 weeks. Translation: the wall isn't permanent. It was built by a child with limited tools. You have different tools now. So go back to that Sunday afternoon, that hollow chest, that quiet ache you couldn't name. What if, instead of trying to fix it, you just stayed with it for a moment? Not to spiral, not to analyze, just to say, something in me is trying to surface. Something real, something that has been very patient and very quiet for a very long time. That emptiness you've carried, sometimes for years, sometimes for as long as you can remember. It was never a flaw. It was a signal. And now you speak enough of the language to hear what it's actually saying. You were never empty. You were waiting to finally feel safe enough to feel. If this put into words something you've carried but never been able to explain, you'll want to watch this next.